Istanbul at dawn, a city of silhouettes and stories, where the sunlight touches domes and minarets that have witnessed the rise and fall of empires. As the city wakes, the atmosphere is calm, yet mysterious, as if the ground itself hides secrets far older than memory. Beneath the feet of these travelers lies one of the most mysterious structures ever built in the Byzantine world. The entrance is humble, a simple stone doorway leading into the depths of history. With every step down the worn stone stairs, the modern world fades away. The air grows heavy, and the sound of dripping water begins to echo through the silence. Then the darkness opens into a vast underground palace, an endless forest of stone pillars rising from the shadows. At first glance, the columns appear identical, yet each one carries its own unique history. This is a world lost to time, built by the hands of thousands and forgotten for centuries. The only movement comes from the ceiling, where droplets disturb the mirror-like surface of the water. Ordered by Emperor Justinian I in the 6th century, this structure was a monumental feat of engineering. It was built using the labor of 7,000 slaves, who struggled to raise these massive stones in the damp dark. Each pillar was carefully placed to support the weight of the city above. Its purpose was vital: to store 80,000 cubic meters of water for the capital of the Byzantine Empire. Today, visitors walk through these same halls, feeling the weight of the past in every shadow. But as you venture deeper, the atmosphere shifts. The light fades and the air grows colder. Legends whisper that something far older than the empire itself lies hidden here, something that was never meant to be found. In the furthest corner of this reservoir, the stones tell a different story. Not every stone in this place belongs to the world above. Some were taken from older pagan temples. Reused and repurposed, these artifacts carry the memories of gods long forgotten. And among these ruins lies the most mysterious artifact in all of Istanbul, a silent guardian, hidden in the depths for over 1,500 years. Behind this pillar lies a face that once turned men to stone. Carved in a time before history, she rests in the dark, waiting. She's been watching for centuries, and her story is only just beginning. The journey into the depths of the Basilica Cistern continues. In the silence of these stone halls, the past is never far away. As we move closer, a face begins to emerge from the shadows. Placed sideways and worn by time, this is one of the most mysterious artifacts ever discovered here. Every crack and eroded serpent in her hair tells a story of survival across 15 centuries of humidity and darkness. Why was such a powerful figure placed in such an unusual position? To understand her presence, we must look deeper. She was never meant to be displayed. Here, in the dark, she serves a humble purpose, as the foundation for the city's water supply. The builders likely saw her not as a goddess to be worshipped, but as a practical source of material for their monumental project. But she is not alone. Deeper into the shadows, another silent guardian awaits. Positioned upside down, this second head presents an even greater mystery. Some believe these heads were simply recycled stone from older pagan temples, taken from an unknown location. The chisel marks of ancient craftsmen are still visible, hidden for centuries by the rise and fall of the water level. But others suggest the orientation was no accident. It may have been a calculated act of symbolic power. By the Byzantine period, the old gods were fading. Medusa was no longer feared as a living threat, but seen merely as a relic. The builders used whatever materials were available, repurposing the grandeur of the past to build the infrastructure of the future. Yet, turning the head upside down may have been intentional, a way to neutralize the ancient power associated with her gaze. The ancients believed that to look directly into Medusa's eyes was to be turned instantly to stone. By inverting her face, the Byzantine builders symbolically removed her power, ensuring her gaze could never strike again. Whether a practical choice or a spiritual precaution, the result is one of the most haunting archaeological scenes in the world. In the water's reflection, her power remains intact, a mirror to a past that refuses to be forgotten. For centuries, these faces have remained hidden beneath the streets of Istanbul, guarding a legacy that spans empires. The real mystery lies in where she came from and why she was feared across the ancient world. Her story is etched in stone, and it is far from over. Leaving the damp shadows of the cistern behind, we travel back through the layers of time to the very origin of the myth. Long before she became a monster, long before she was a silent foundation of stone, Medusa was a figure of legendary beauty. She was a priestess, devoted to the goddess Athena, serving within the walls of a grand temple by the sea. In the eyes of the ancients, her grace was unsurpassed, a beauty that would soon become her curse. Her days were spent in prayer and service, walking the halls of a goddess who demanded absolute devotion. But that peace was shattered. The myth tells of Poseidon, the god of the sea, whose desire for Medusa led to a violation of Athena's sacred sanctuary. The desecration of the temple did not go unnoticed. Athena's anger was swift, but it was Medusa who would pay the price. A divine punishment was cast upon the priestess, a transformation that would strip her of her humanity forever. Her golden hair became a nest of living serpents, hissing in the dark. Her beauty was replaced by a terror that could turn any living thing to stone. The gaze of the priestess became a weapon. One look was all it took to freeze a life in a final moment of agony. Exiled and alone, she was driven to the farthest reaches of the world, a victim of the gods, now feared as their most dangerous creation. Her legend spread like a plague, a story whispered around village fires to ward off the darkness of the unknown. A monster in the eyes of many, but a figure of profound tragedy in the eyes of history. The face lying here beneath the streets of Istanbul was once the center of this terrifying power. Before she was a foundation, she was a goddess, a woman, and a warning. Her transformation was complete, but even in stone, she continues to watch. Her silent gaze remains, a legacy of power, tragedy, and the secrets of the ancient world. The coastline of exile, a desolate world where the wind speaks in whispers and the ground itself seems to hold its breath. It was here, in the farthest reaches of the mythic world, that the hunter would meet the hunted. His name was Perseus, a hero born of divine blood, tasked with a mission that many believed would be his end. To face Medusa was to face death itself. To look upon her was to be silenced forever. Preparation was his only shield. A gift from the goddess Athena, a mirror to the world, meant to show what the eyes dared not see directly. Guided by divine wisdom, Perseus understood that he must rely on reflection rather than direct sight. A blade to sever the curse, and a bag to hold the power that would remain even after death. As the light of the world faded, the hunter entered the darkness of the Gorgon's lair. He was not the first to come here. The field was littered with the silent remains of those who had failed. Every statue was a warning, a life turned to stone in a single, terrifying instant. And then, there she was, not a monster in his eyes, but a shadow in the mirror. He moved with the precision of a predator, his eyes fixed only on the bronze surface in his hand. The air was filled with the sound of hissing. The moment of confrontation had arrived. In one strike, the hero ended the curse. The head of Medusa was claimed. But even severed, her power did not fade. It only changed hands. What was once a curse became his greatest weapon, a tool of absolute victory. His enemies were silenced, frozen into history by the very gaze they sought to avoid. With the mission complete, the hunter returned, leaving behind a field of new monuments to the power of the Gorgon. The story of Perseus ended, but the image of Medusa lived on, becoming a symbol of protection for the ages to come. This is why she rests here, beneath the streets of Istanbul, not as a trophy, but as a guardian of the foundations. A silent watcher from a forgotten age, supporting the weight of history with every ripple of the water. The silence of the cistern hides more than just shadows. It hides the remains of a world that existed long before the city above. To the builders of the 6th century, these sculptures were not objects of art or terror. They were resources, stones taken from the ruins of a forgotten past. The mismatch in color and carving reveals the truth. These blocks were never intended for this place. They were spolia, reused materials from an earlier age. Constantinople was built upon the echoes of Rome. As pagan temples were abandoned, their grandeur was dismantled piece by piece. Builders surveyed these ruins, not for their history, but for their utility. A large block of stone was a valuable asset for the emperor's ambitious projects. Every piece was measured and judged. Speed and availability often guided the decisions of the master builders. Moving such a massive weight required immense manpower and careful engineering. Thousands of men labored to transport the heavy foundations of the city. Slowly, the artifacts of the old world were dragged through the streets of the new capital, destined for a future they were never meant to see. Under Emperor Justinian, the city transformed. His infrastructure projects demanded vast quantities of material, and the ruins of the past were the primary source. Identity mattered little in the rush to build. To the engineers, she was simply a block that fit the gap. The sideways orientation was likely a matter of engineering convenience, a practical choice to support the massive marble pillars above. Today, we look upon her as a mystery, but to those who placed her here, she was the key to stability. Yet some argue that the choice was more than just practical. It may have been an act of symbolic dominance over the pagan past. The new faith sought to replace the old. By burying the ancient gods in the dark, their sacred power was symbolically extinguished. This reuse of history was common throughout the city. Constantinople was a patchwork of recycled grandeur, built for speed and durability. But even as mere building material, the presence of these faces transformed this utilitarian space into a haunting underworld. For centuries, they remained hidden beneath the streets, unseen, forgotten, and silent. What was once a discarded relic is now a recognized symbol of Istanbul's deep, layered history. A silent watcher from a forgotten temple, holding up the weight of the city and the weight of time. After the fall of Constantinople, the Basilica Cistern fell into a deep, silent slumber. The world above changed, but the water below remained still. For nearly a century, this enormous reservoir slowly disappeared from public memory, becoming a hidden ghost of a fallen empire. The city evolved, new homes were built, and lives were lived directly above these ancient vaults, without the owners ever knowing what lay beneath their floors. Yet, the cistern refused to stay completely hidden. Some residents made a startling discovery, a source of fresh water, reachable through holes in their own homes. They lowered buckets into the dark, drawing water from a seemingly bottomless well that stretched far into the earth. What they found was more than just water. It was a lifeline to a forgotten history, used every day without question. Legends even told of families catching fish directly from beneath their kitchens, a strange bounty from the shadows. It wasn't until 1545 that the scholar Petrus Gillius arrived. Driven by rumors of a massive hidden reservoir, following the whispers of the locals, he sought to find the entrance to this subterranean world. Equipped only with a torch and his curiosity, he prepared to step into the unknown. As the light of his torch cut through the dark, the true scale of the structure began to reveal itself. He stood in a forest of stone, a monumental palace of water that had survived centuries of neglect. Gillius documented everything, every column, every measurement, and the mysterious stone bases that supported the weight of the world above. Among those shadows, the Medusa heads waited, still unknown to the wider world, but preserved by the very darkness that hid them. Centuries later, the darkness was finally lifted. Restoration efforts brought the cistern back from the edge of oblivion. Today, it stands as a testament to the resilience of history, a monument preserved for all to see. But as we stand before these faces, we realize that rediscovery has not removed the mystery. It has only invited us to look closer. Something ancient still watches from below, a silent witness to the rise and fall of everything that has happened above. The cistern is no longer lost, but its secrets, they belong to the shadows. Beyond the massive stone and engineering of the cistern lies another layer of history, a world of symbols, belief, and the whispers of ancient power. For many, these faces are more than just architecture. They are guardians, placed here to serve a purpose that stretches far beyond the physical. In the ancient Greek and Roman worlds, Medusa's image was known as an apotropaic symbol, a powerful emblem meant to repel evil and ward off danger. Warriors carried her likeness into battle, believing that her terrifying gaze could frighten even the most determined of enemies. But she was also a silent protector of the home, her face carved above thresholds to safeguard those who lived within. Placing her beneath a critical water source may have been an intentional act, a spiritual shield for the lifeblood of the empire. The unusual orientation, both sideways and upside down, led some to believe it was a way to neutralize her deadly power, turning her gaze away from the world. Yet in the water's mirror, her face is restored. A reminder that in ancient belief, every perspective carried its own hidden truth. Whether practical engineering or sacred precaution, the choice made by these builders created one of the most haunting archaeological scenes in history. Over time, modern legends have grown in the silence, stories of protective energy and lingering whispers of the old gods. While science offers no evidence of the supernatural, the mystery persists where the records of history are incomplete. Medusa remains a figure of duality, a terrifying monster to some and a silent, steadfast guardian to others. Across the centuries, her face has been interpreted and reimagined, a legacy that refuses to be silenced by the passing of time. She has transformed this functional reservoir into a place of legend, where the past and present meet in the shadows. Belief, fear, and history now exist together beneath the streets of Istanbul, held up by the very faces that once turned men to stone. Her story remains carved in stone, waiting for the next ripple to reveal its truth. Beneath the bustle of the city lies a monumental silence, a vast underground palace of stone and shadow that has stood for over 1,500 years. This is the Basilica Cistern, an engineering masterpiece of the Byzantine Empire, designed to provide the lifeblood of a sprawling capital. 336 marble columns support this colossal roof, arranged in precise rows that stretch far into the darkness. Most of these pillars were salvaged from earlier Roman structures, brought together to create a reservoir of unprecedented scale. The reuse of these materials allowed for rapid construction, blending the grandeur of the past with the practical needs of the future. This was the city's secret insurance, a massive storage system supplying the Great Palace and the surrounding districts. An intricate network of aqueducts transported water from distant forests, funneling it directly into this subterranean sanctuary. These lifelines stretched across the landscape, ensuring that even in the driest seasons the capital would never thirst. In times of war, this stored supply was vital. It was the foundation of the city's survival during the longest sieges. While soldiers stood guard above, the strength of the city was quietly held here, in the cold and the dark. Today, we call it the Underground Palace, not for royalty, but for the majestic scale of its design. The symmetry and grace of the structure transcend its utility, creating a space that feels both sacred and eternal. The cistern stretches further than the eye can see, a labyrinth of stone that has survived the passing of empires. Built with architectural elegance, these arches have weathered earthquakes and floods, holding firm for over a millennium. Few projects from the ancient world remain so intact, a testament to the brilliance of those who dreamed of a city that would last forever. But even within this masterpiece of engineering, individual mysteries still haunt the shadows. These relics are now part of a larger story, a synthesis of myth and infrastructure that defines the underground history of Istanbul. What was once hidden infrastructure is now an icon of endurance, a place where we can touch the foundations of the past. The Palace of Water remains, a silent witness to the centuries, still watching, still holding the weight of time. The Basilica Cistern is no longer a hidden secret of the empire. Today, it stands as a bridge between the ancient world and the modern traveler. Fang. After centuries of silence, these halls are alive once more, filled with those who come to witness the endurance of stone and water. Fang. But this accessibility was hard-won. Major restoration efforts were required to stabilize the structure and protect it from the toll of time. Fang. Every brick and every pillar was carefully surveyed, ensuring that preservation never came at the cost of the cistern's historic character. Fang. Restoration has transformed a utilitarian reservoir into a living monument, a place where history is not just read, but felt. Fang. The lighting was designed to honor the shadows, enhancing the mystery that has defined this space for 1,500 years. Fang. As night falls, the cistern becomes a place of profound stillness, where the weight of the centuries feels most intense. Fang. It is a space that demands silence, inviting every visitor to contemplate the stories carved into the stones below. Fang. Encountering the Medusa heads in person is an experience that transcends photographs. Their scale and presence are startling. Fang. Their unusual orientation continues to provoke questions, fueling the modern legends that surround this ancient underground realm. Fang. Whether viewed as protectors or relics, these faces have become the most recognized symbols of Istanbul's hidden history. Fang. The cistern's unique atmosphere has made it a canvas for storytellers, appearing in films and documentaries that seek to capture its cinematic power. Fang. Each new generation of visitors becomes part of the ongoing story, a shared historical experience that spans cultures and centuries. Fang. What was once utilitarian infrastructure is now a sanctuary of memory, a place where the smallest ripple echoes through time. Fang. Preservation efforts continue quietly in the background, protecting the stone from humidity and the vibration of the world above. Fang. The cistern now exists as both museum and living monument, a testament to the brilliance of the past and the stewardship of the present. Fang. As we leave the shadows, we carry with us the silence of the underground palace, a legacy that will continue to watch long after we are gone. Fang. The mystery remains, carved in stone, hidden in water, and forever preserved beneath the streets of Istanbul. Fang. Beneath the noise of the modern world lies a space that has lived in silence for nearly 15 centuries. An underground palace that has witnessed the birth and death of empires. Fang. While the city above is in constant motion, the cistern remains a constant, a hidden witness to the passage of time. Fang. Every day, millions of people walk directly above these ancient vaults, never suspecting that a forgotten world rests just a few feet beneath their feet. Fang. Above, empires have risen and fallen. Below, the stone and water remain, a sanctuary of stillness in a world of change. Fang. In the deepest shadows, the ancient guardians wait. Medusa, once a figure of mythic terror, now a silent observer of history. Fang. Today, she no longer represents the fear of the unknown. Instead, she is the bridge between myth and architecture, between legend and engineering. Fang. Once feared as a gaze that could end a life, her image now supports the weight of a monumental structure that still stands today. Fang. Time changes everything. What was once sacred becomes forgotten, and what was once discarded becomes a priceless treasure of the past. Fang. These faces now exist as silent witnesses, not to our fear, but to our endurance. They carry the weight of the city and the memory of gods. Fang. They have seen the city above change its name, its faith, and its people, while they remain steadfast in the shadows. Fang. The noise of modern life is loud and constant. But just below the surface, another story is being told, one of silence and stone. Fang. Places like this remind us that our history is layered. The past is never lost. It is simply waiting to be remembered. Fang. The same stones that once formed temples now hold up the future. They are the foundations of everything we build. Fang. The Gorgon's gaze is now a protective eye, watching over the city that has become her home for over 1,500 years. Fang. Beneath the noise, the past is always present, waiting quietly beneath our feet. Fang. The silent witness remains. Fade to black. Fang.